Okay, welcome back. We are halfway through our first week back on the home stretch of quarantine school. All right, so good news, bad news? I don't know. So this section is either going to be really easy for you or a little hard. It's all about square roots. So this is 11.5, it's square roots. So if you're comfortable and understand square roots, which you've done before, then this is as easy as it sounds. Okay? If you are a little unsure of square roots and how they work, then this might be a little tricky for you. But don't worry, it is totally doable. I believe I gave you a gray sheet that has a square root table that I want you to fill out. But really, this is just working backwards from squaring. And so I'm going to start this by giving you a refresher of squaring. Okay? So say I wanted to do 3 squared. So 3 squared is the same thing as saying 3 times 3, right? Which gives you 9. Okay, so that's squaring. Square root is the opposite of that. It undoes a square root, squaring. So say I wanted to do the square root of 9. Okay, well the square root of 9 is whatever number times itself would give me 9, right? So what number times itself gives me 9? Well, we just did it. 3 times 3. 3 times 3 is the square root of 9 because 3 squared gives you 9. So it's basically just going backwards, right? So 9 is what I'm taking the square root of. The square root 9 is just 3 times 3. So that means that the square root of 9 is just that one original number. So the square root of 9 is just 3. That's all there is to it. Okay? So if you have a multiplication table, if you look down that diagonal, those are all your perfect squares, which is a little whatever. But anyways, so finding the square root of something. Okay, let's go through this. So let's look at example 1. So they want us to figure out what is the square root of 16. Okay, so what is the square root of 16? So what number times itself would give us 16? So for me, when I'm doing these, I will usually go through my perfect squares if I'm not sure of it off the top of my head. So I'll start at the beginning. 1 squared is 1. 2 squared is 4. 3 squared is 9. 4 squared is 16. So the square root of 16 is 4 because 4 squared is 16. Okay, so now I'm going to throw something at you. So 4 times 4 is 16, which means the square root of 16 equals 4. Okay, so 4 times 4 is equal to 16, so the square root of 16 is 4, right? Makes sense. What happens if I were to say, well, what is negative 4 times negative 4? Well, negative 4 times negative 4 is also 16. So does that mean the square root of 16 is also negative 4? Yeah, it does. So when we take the square root of something, it can be either 4 or negative 4. And so they introduce this symbol, the plus or minus symbol. And so we're going to start using that because it matters and we use it more in math. And so the square root of 16, the actual answer would be plus or minus 4 because it could be either of these. Okay? So the square root of 16 is going to be plus or minus 4. Okay, so then if I look at the next example is the square root of 144. Okay, so, and then, that's weird. Okay, well, it tells us it wants it to be written as the product of 2 positive numbers, which is basically telling us that we don't want this negative one, we just want the positive one. Easy. So first thing I need to do is figure out what squared is 144. Again, you can go through your times tables. 2, 4, no. 3 is 9, no. 4 is 16, no. 5 is 25, no. Sorry. 6 times 6 is 36. 7 times 7 is 49. 8 times 8 is 64. 9 times 9 is 81. 10 times 10 is 100. 11 times 11 is 121. And then 12 times 12 is 144. And see, that you wonder, why does my teacher make me memorize my times tables? Because if you memorize your times tables, you can do that. You don't have to use a calculator. You can just kind of go through them. Anyways, 12 times 12 is 144. All right, and real quick on the times table things, if you don't memorize your times tables, that's fine. Try to memorize your perfect squares. Okay, that at least will save you a lot of headache when you get in math. Okay, if you can just remember those, and really it's only 12 numbers. Really it's only 11 because you don't need to know what 1 squared is. But anyways, I digress. So 144 is the same thing as 12 times 12. So the square root of 144 is 12. And they tell us they want just the positive, so we don't have to do the plus or minus. Okay? All right, next one. We have 100. You know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to do this. This will save us some time. And then if you want to copy this for yourself, so I'm going to say 2 is 4, 3 is 9, 4 is 16, 5 is 25, 6 is 36, 7 is 49, 8 is 64, 9 is 81, 10 is 100, 11, 121, 12, 144. So there's my perfect squares. And again, if you just write these down, you'll be fine. You won't need to memorize them. Okay, so the next one it says is find the value of negative radical 100. Okay, so negative radical 100, and then it says to write 100 as a factor of 2 equal negative factors. Okay, so we want to know negative radical 100. So, well, 100, if I look at this, that's 10. So then it's going to be negative 10 times negative 10 equals 100. So our square root of 100 is negative 10. We're done. That's it. All right, then I'm going to do the last one. Okay, so the last one, this one's a little tricky, and it'll show you a trick that is kind of nice to know. All right, so it says, what is the square root of 400? Okay, so when you're doing bigger numbers like this, ignore the zeros, especially when it has just zeros. Look at the 4, okay? Is 4 on our table anywhere? Right there. Okay? So 4, the square root of 4 is 2. Okay? So that means if I ignore these 2 zeros for a second, and I say, well, 2 times 2 gives me 4. If there are 2 zeros, or any even number of zeros, you just split it up. 0 and 0. Right? Because 20 times 20 would give me 4, and then I add the 2 zeros. 2 zeros. Okay? So the square root of 400 is 20. And it does not say plus or minus, so I'm just going to say the square root of 400 is plus or minus 20. That's it. All right? Done. That's all you got to do for this section. Really, and looking at the textbook, it does get a little higher, but don't hesitate to use a calculator. Try not to. At least do these by hand or by head. There's not really a lot of work to show, so have that for what it is. All right, that's the only video. You guys are done for the week as far as videos go. And again, seriously, if you have questions, come in on Friday. Friday at 1 o'clock. Yes, 1 o'clock. 1 o'clock is your guys' tutoring session. All right, that's it. Signing off. Adios.